Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Fantastic. Thank you for coming, and thank you to everyone at Republica for putting on what's been a fantastic event so far. If you were here yesterday, I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. And this morning, I'd like to spend about 20 minutes talking about my work at Europeana and placing open data and open access in the context of the culture sector, and to highlight some of the interesting and cool ideas which are taking place as inspiration, but also to leave 5 to 10 minutes for us to have a conversation and for us to take some questions at the end. So I hope that sounds good. I want to tell you that these slides will be available on Twitter immediately after this talk. So if you want to reference them or reuse them, remix them, I license them to CC BY, so you can do that. Now, normally when I speak at these kind of events, I like to have a very kind of attractive and interesting image on my first slide, and preferably something that's quite local. So if I'm in Warsaw, I have an image of Warsaw maybe, or if I'm in Mexico City, I have something local that's Mexican and authentic. And so I thought, well, Berlin, yeah, I should do the same. Why not? So with this in mind, I found a fantastic image that was painted about 100 years ago of Berlin by a Berlin artist and from a Berlin institution. So I looked at their website and I tried to work out, well, can I use this image or not? I wasn't really sure. So what do? You email and you hope for a response. Now the response came very, very quickly, but it wasn't as positive as I hoped it would be. Although this work is definitely in the public domain, the copyright expired several decades ago, the institution, who I won't name, I will keep them anonymous, to be fair, wanted to charge me a fee because they claim copyright in this image, which is possible under German law. And for a one-time use of this picture, they wanted to charge quite a significant fee. Now, their response to my request was to offer me a fee of €75 for one-off use. That slide you saw maybe for 30, 60 seconds, you won't see it again. And that seems to me quite expensive, €75 for like a minute's value of an image which is in the public domain. So that got me putting on my thinking face. What can I buy for €75 today? Well, I went online, and you can buy yourself some nice perfume from Balenciaga for €75. Or maybe I'll head over to Lidl, having a party, and maybe I can get 12 bottles of probably quite decent wine for €74.99. Or I have 3 cats, maybe I need a new cat tree. Hey, well that's also €75. So those seem to be reasonable value for money, and let's compare that against using that one image in the public domain for 60 seconds from this Berlin museum. There is also the question of affordability, in that as a Westerner, I am more likely to be able to afford €75 for a lecture use. But I calculated that €75 is really, on the minimum wage in Germany before tax, is one day's work. Or if you're from Sri Lanka, €75 is the average monthly salary in that country. So I think when we talk about these things, we should maintain kind of global perspectives about value and about pricing. So the dialogue with the institution continued. When I questioned the price, my correspondent says, well, this is our property. These images cost money. Okay, I understand that, but they went further. Why on earth should we have the cost of production and let you enjoy the product, or actually anything, for free. Honestly, do we live in a capitalist world or not? Okay, wow. Now, I'm in the culture sector. I've been in this business for 20 years, so I know the details, and I've worked in museums and in image licensing. I'm not your average customer, your average citizen. But I just would like us to consider, where else would you expect this kind of customer service in our lives? If you're online shopping, or you're contacting, or you want anything, or you're asking a question. Is the culture sector, with this kind of customer service and this kind of slightly aggressive dialogue, doing a service to the institutions who hold these wonderful things? So, end of the anecdote. I did use something local, but it doesn't come from Berlin. It comes from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, who have a public domain, a high-resolution image. This is a crop, this is a detail of that picture. And so this is what you see now. Just in case you're not familiar with the term GLAM, it stands for Galleries, Libraries, Archives and Museums. And the guiding spirit, the philosopher behind my talk today, is a late 19th and early 20th century American judge and legal philosopher called Learned Hand. And he said something which I think references the spirit of today. He said, "The spirit of liberty is the spirit which is not too sure that it's right, and it seeks to understand the minds of other men and women." So this is the kind of humility that I would like to see more of in the museum sector, not to be top down and the authority and dictate terms to the public, but to have a more of a unsure, confident but unsure and listening mode. And Learned Hand, here he is. I've elected him personally as the best judge name ever. So that's an award that he didn't know about when he was alive. So my goals today is I want to introduce you briefly to Europeana. I'd like to put open data in the GLAM context, and to highlight some open GLAM innovation and the communities to inspire your new ideas and conversations. So, what is Europeana? Europeana is an open data platform with many different services. We publish more than 50 million digital objects from thousands of European museums, libraries, archives, all across Europe. And we try to add value to those museums and their collections by aggregating and promoting them for online audiences. And we have two key products. The first one is Europeana Collections, which is the portal into all of this wonderful material. And we also have a suite of APIs for the more technically minded of you, where you can harvest and analyze and extract the data for whatever purpose you wish to. Europeana has the following quite ambitious mission statement, that we want to transform the world with culture and to build on this rich heritage and make it easier for people, for anyone, to use for work, for learning, or actually just for fun. Europeana was established in 2008, and we are core funded by the European Commission and the culture ministries of the member states. There are about 60 staff. It's about a 50-50 male-female ratio, and we currently have 17 different nationalities in the office. And we are based in the Royal Library of the Netherlands in The Hague, where I came from yesterday. But beyond the staff, the Network Association is an amazing group of 2,000 plus heritage experts, people just like you and me. And as you can see from this picture, they're generally quite happy and smiling people. And these are the community that really allows Europeana to do what it does. They support, they discuss things, they give us feedback, they make all kinds of connections which the foundation on its own could simply not do. So a public shout out and a thank you to them. So this is the homepage of Europeana Collections a few days ago. This presents those 50 million records, of course through search, but also increasingly through browse options. And the website offers navigation in 27 languages today and has over 50,000 page views a day from all around the world. So what's special about Europeana collections? Well, I would say it's trustworthy and authentic cultural heritage. The catalogue information that you see for every record comes direct from the source. We offer clear attribution to the creator or the rights holder, and a direct link to the same object on the data provider or the museum's website. And importantly, I think for the open access angle, that there is always a visible license or right statement on every page. So it really is clear what you can or you can't do with that piece of culture. Something that we've been developing since 2016 when I joined Europeana is a growing number of thematic collections. You can think of these, and we have 12 right now on fashion, newspapers, natural history. These are ways to get into the corpus without having to use search all the time, and they're signposts to different parts of the data and the website to make it more usable and help you find what you're looking for faster. I want to spend a few minutes just talking about some very recent work that we did. We developed a season in March on Women's History Month. So what we wanted to do was really two things. We wanted to focus on promoting and highlighting innovative women in history who maybe are famous or not so well known, using the collections that we have in Europeana and telling different stories about them with our audiences. And we also wanted to highlight contemporary innovative women in the culture and tech space. So let me show you a few examples. From an editorial perspective, we told the stories of 21 women during March, 16 real and 5 fictional. These stories spanned 19 different countries, over 4 centuries of women's history, and we told these stories using cultural heritage from 80 institutions and over 20 different countries around the world. The showcase of the women's season was an exhibition called Pioneers, which highlighted the lives and achievements of 8 women in different countries, different centuries, different topics, from engineering to art. The season included a number of blogs and many guest blogs written by our museum and library and archive partners. The season overall drew a lot of traffic to Europeana and definitely improved our numbers. We also had a range of galleries on the themes of women's issues and women's history, everything from fashion to women in the First World War. And as I mentioned, we had a special focus on contemporary women. So we had a series of a dozen interviews with leading women in museums and tech all over the world, from Madhavi Gandhi here on the left in India, through to Eva Fogg, who's based in Denmark, who's working with upskilling and enthusing young girls in technology and giving them a way into this space. So I think a nice mix of the contemporary work with the historical. Everything that we do is very strongly promoted and engaged with social media. So if you're on Facebook, then we do lots of work there every day, and the women's season was a particularly good way of starting conversations about these topics. We're also highly active on Twitter. We have quite a large Twitter following, and the Women's Month was a particularly good way to connect with global conversations on this topic using a number of hashtags. And in March, we also launched our Instagram account. Why does it take us so long to get on Instagram? We had a little issue in that Europeana has always believed we wanted to provide direct links to providing institutions, and Insta, as you know, doesn't offer that all the time. So it took us a while to update our policies to get there. But the launch in Women's Month of our Instagram has been quite successful, and I think it will continue to grow. Something we did on Insta is we had a takeover of the National Museum of Women in the Arts, and we were promoting women artists from culture institutions around Europe, and we also made a pledge to continue this topic and this agenda actually beyond Women's History Month, and it's something that we have been doing since, and we will continue to do this and next year. We also made a colouring book for adults or kids or anyone in between. The theme was women in history, and we had communities working with this colouring book, printing it out. You can download it from our website. And actually, it's quite a fun and a light way to interest people in this topic. And we also do external partnerships. So we're very friendly with Daily Art, the mobile app and the website. And we wrote some guest articles on women's history for Daily Art. And we find these partnerships quite an effective way of bridging between Europeana's kind of core audiences and people elsewhere who are in different communities. If you're interested in learning more about Europeana and becoming one of those smiley, happy people with their hands up, please consider joining the Network Association. It's free, takes like 3 minutes to sign up. We won't steal your data or sell it to anyone. And you have the opportunity then to attend Europeana events. You can join the tech community, or we have a copyright community. Lots of groups of people working on shared challenges and shared ideas. So it's quite a nice way to bridge from your work and your interests to a much bigger pool of similar people. And we can also offer some quite fun opportunities. Every autumn we are involved in the GIF It Up contest with the Digital Public Library of America and Trove in Australia and Digital NZ in New Zealand. And these are a couple of the best entries from this year's competition, which, yeah, a lot of fun. It's not all serious. So, in this second and concluding part of my talk, I'd like to show you some of the examples and to present open data in the GLAM space more generally. What do we mean by open? Well, I personally like the open definition, which says that open means anyone can freely access, use, share, or modify for any purpose data or digital objects. And the legal tools for doing this are several, and the key ones would be using the public domain mark or the CC0 dedication. Now, my metaphor of the moment for this is that structured open data on the web is like a Swiss Army knife. If you present your data in the right way and to the right standards, it can have all kinds of secondary uses that you might think of or you never imagined. And more importantly, it's really the kind of the underlying skeleton now, the backbone of the web. So Wikidata and its structured information there is being used in Siri, in Alexa, is powering the Google Knowledge Graph and other services which we use every day. And even the mainstream tech media is picking up on this. This is an article in Wired last week, Inside the Alexa-Friendly World of Wikidata. From a museum perspective, I'd like to quote a recent paper by Elena Villaspesa and Trilce Navarrete that says, open linked data enables ubiquitous presence as machines increasingly filter our views through search engines, the Knowledge Graph or Siri, and Wikidata. And the publication of collections as open data facilitate an increase in views, enriched data, automatic translation, and magnified visibility. So for museums, structuring and presenting data openly in this way offers a huge number of opportunities for institutions and the wider audiences online. Now, some of them are relatively technical. This is some recent work, and there are links to all of these things in my slides, done at the Metropolitan Museum and by the graphic artist and analyst Ryan Best in the States. And this is about making global connections between artworks and objects using AI and through open data. Open data on the web also can make new connections and place artwork and cultural heritage in new contexts. So whilst the Van Gogh Starry Night is illustrating night in paintings here on Wikipedia, it's also being used in an article about psychosis, an article about Venus, and Die Nacht, the Strauss piece of music. So these are the kind of new contexts and possibilities that open data enables for cultural institutions. Wikidata in GLAM's How and Why. I really recommend this piece of work by Jason Evans, who is the National Wikipedian, which I think is a great title for anyone, in Wales. And he has been doing some very interesting work with taking the library's collections and sort of Wikimediaing it and Wikifying it. So if you're looking even at visibility and metrics, 20,000 images they presented to Wikimedia Commons have now had 450 million views in Wikipedia. And so astronomical numbers that the museum itself, the library itself, could never ever achieve on its own. And they're very happy about that. They're embracing this more open vision. So Jason has written about this, and this is linked here, a journey through Wikidata, enabling new narratives and discoveries within the data. And this includes multilingual transformation of their data, connections by using Wikidata between museum objects and places, people, and things all across the web. And I'd also like to represent the citizen scientists for a moment. This is some recent work by Siobhan Leachman in New Zealand, and she is a powerhouse of natural historian and general interest, who is constantly updating Wikipedia articles and referencing cultural heritage institutions' open data to her particular interest about natural history. And what she's doing here, and these tweets are linked, is using Wikidata and resources like iNaturalist to reference and try and identify species and plants and things in historical paintings. So these are the kind of new connections that can be made. So for the culture sector, the challenge really is to embrace a much more participatory reality. And again, a recent work here by Neil Stimler and Louise Rawlinson. There's a paper for Museums in the Web 19 called Where are the Edit and Upload Buttons? This is really calling on museums to embrace more user engagement and actually let users in and let them do things on their websites, rather than very authoritative kind of top-down approach, which we know that most museums still take online. I would say that Open GLAM is also an enabler for ethical conversations about cultural heritage. So here is a piece in the Times newspaper from 2 weeks ago about questioning the ethics around digitization and repatriation of art to Africa from French museums. And I'd also like to invite you to visit here and comment on the draft Open GLAM principles, which embrace all of these things in a way forward to open access for cultural heritage. This has been published in draft now, and it will be developed with you this year. Here are some of the lead actors in this space. I won't go through them all, but lots of logos that you can reference. And if you want to just generally kind of catch up on this space, then, well, the hashtag OpenGlam on Twitter is a good way to kind of catch all of these conversations. And finally, I will just highlight some current work which I'm doing with Dr. Andrea Wallace from the University of Exeter. We have been, since March 2018, conducting a global survey of open access policy and practice in the GLAM sector. Yes, it's a gigantic spreadsheet, so if you like spreadsheets, well, you're going to love this. But I've also been writing about it on Medium recently to make it a little bit more understandable for the outsider. So if you're interested, I'm continuing to writing about this, and it's linked here. So to conclude, before we take some questions, I would present the words of a colleague of mine, Liam Wyatt, who says, we're doing the same thing for the same reason, for the same people, often in the same medium. So let's do it together. And I thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Douglas. Are there any questions? Yes.
Hello, thank you for this presentation. I understand that Europeana focuses on online access to the open data. Do you also work on initiatives to bring this data back into the institution, into physical experience for visitors? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Very good question. On the technical side, Europeana is not currently bringing data back into the institutions. We tend to call that round tripping. So the data is tagged or modified through crowdsourced perhaps activities or maybe on the Wiki communities. And There is an interesting pilot on this happening in Sweden with the Cultural Heritage Board, who are looking at this and trying to find methods and ways for museums to benefit from all of this activity which is happening online. So that's something that we're engaged with, but it hasn't, as far as I know anyway, yet taken place where that data is coming back. Just on the physical, the real world, we do quite a lot of collection days, for example, where we go out to libraries and archives and we host public events with institutions where people can come in and they can bring in objects that are digitized, and then they'll be annotated and presented, and they can upload them as part of that to Europeana. So that's a way of kind of, if you like, bottom-up digitization and a democratic point of access for communities all over Europe. So, thank you.
Hi, thank you for your talk. I've one question. Do you also include rather contemporary art pieces? Like if you have in Germany, we have the Kunstvereine, which really have art from living artists. Is there a problem in uploading this stuff? Like, do the institutions get the right to upload the contemporary art pieces to your database? Or is that a problem in general?
That is a problem in general. I think particularly in Germany, where the collecting societies have a very strong hold over many of the museums that have in copyright works, and you could think perhaps of the Pinakotheken in Munich, where if you visit their websites, many of the contemporary works which are still in copyright, you won't see an image of the work because there is discussions currently between I think VG Bild and the museums to say, well, how can we afford to display these images? So there's I think it's almost a communication failure at the moment because of legal processes, that if a museum has a painting that it cannot publish even a small image of on its website, then that seems to be an issue. But there are discussions around this, and perhaps Anja, who will speak, can talk to that more detailed in the German context.
Okay, thank you, Douglas. Big applause again for him.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.